Hello ladies, this is Brianna from MissWriters.com, and for this tutorial I will be showing you everything from the color to the installation to the curls. You need 2 bundles and 1 luxury lace closure in a length of 16 inches. This is how my braid pattern looks for my lace closure install, and I'm spinning around just to show you how it looks. I have 4 braids that connect in the back and I have 2 braids on the side. Now for these first 3 braids, they are to be braided to the ends and connected to form 1. And then we have braids in the back. Every 3 braids will form 1 braid, as you see here, ending in 4 braids. And then on the left side, I have 3 braids again that connect into 1. Now, in order to stitch your braids down, you are going to crisscross each braid in the back and sew it down by nestling it in between 2 braids. So as you can see here, I am tucking this braid just to show you that as you are stitching it around, this is how it should look. Now for the next braid, we did the exact same thing, and remember, you want to crisscross each braid at the back because this distributes the bulk of your braids. So now we have our 2 side braids that need to be stitched down, and this is the direction in which you want to stitch your braids. So now for this braid, you are going to stitch it going in this direction and fold the tail end to stitch it a lot easier. And I'm going to demonstrate exactly how to do the stitching technique. This technique is going to be done throughout the entire time you're stitching your hair. Now go underneath a scalp braid as well as this loose braid, and then wrap the thread around the needle twice. And then when you pull, it creates a knot for you. Now do the same thing in that same spot. You're going to wrap the thread around the needle twice and then pull through. So now you're just going to continue to stitch, and I want you to go around that braid that you're stitching down, but also make sure the needle is going underneath the scalp braid. Now fold the tail end of the braid as you see here, because it makes stitching all the way to the very ends a lot easier. Also, one tip that I want you to keep in mind is to make sure that you load at least 10 to 15 needles with thread. Now I know that sounds like a lot, but it's actually plenty because throughout the entire process, you don't want to have to keep re-preparing one little needle. It takes too much time and it drags your work progress. So if you load about 10 to 15, it'll be super easy for you. Now as you can see, I'm almost done with this needle here since I'm running out of thread, and because I've threaded multiple needles, I can cut off the string right there and I can create 2 more knots with my new needle without having to constantly stop to re-thread needles. So now after those 2 knots, you're then going to cut the string off as your braid has been stitched. And this is how your braid pattern should look once you've finished. And now it's time to sew down this weaving net. When you put the net over your head, make sure it's the long way so that the short sides are near your ears. Make sure to stitch your stitches around your part in this direction. And after doing that, this is how it looks. Go ahead and stitch down the edge of your braids as well as around both of your ears. Now I saved the back to show you how to stitch down your weaving net. Always go through the net, around the edge braid of your hairline, and back out through the net. And now every time you come back out through the net, you're still doing the same stitching technique by grabbing your thread and wrapping it around the string twice and pulling through to create a knot. Make sure your knots are very close together, and also make sure that you pull your net and then you make a stitch. The reason why is because this will allow the net to contort to your head without having a bubble of a space in the back. In order to prevent that, you want to make sure it's pulled very firmly when you stitch, because this is how it should look. Now, carefully begin cutting off the excess net very close to your braids, making sure not to cut too close because you could actually undo your net that's been sewn down. And this is how it should look with 1 space at the top we gotta cut off. Don't forget to remove the net here at your part because you want to see your scalp through your lace, not the actual weaving net. So carefully cut down the middle and then cut off the edge remaining pieces that are on both sides of your part. And And this is how our weaving net and braid pattern looks right after sewing it down. So I'm spinning around to show you how contoured it is to our head. Now it's time to install our extensions, and I just wanted to show you how amazing this hair looks. So to begin, make sure you put the needle through the edge of your weft and make sure you're also doing the same stitching technique. Always secure it this way at the beginning of your extensions by creating 2 knots. So put the needle through the weft for both knots and then create a knot. Starting at the very edge of our head, we're going to put the needle through the braid, meaning you're going to go around the braid. Now, when you pull it up, it's going to pull the extensions exactly where you want. Go back around your braid and around the weft and create your knot. Make sure that when you're securing this very first knot, that you're actually securing the knot on the weft on your braid pattern. So if you notice the knot formed around the roots of your hair, make sure to readjust the bundle so that the knots are always being formed around the weft. And then you're going to secure one more time in that same space and then continue stitching along the edge of your braid pattern base. Make sure you're going in a space of about 1/4 inch because you want the knots to be very close but not too close together. Make sure you're always going through the net and around the edge braid and then back out. When you come back out, you have to come out underneath the weft in order to create a knot around the weft. So continue repeating this process to sew down your hair extensions. I'm almost done sewing down my first bundle, but I stopped right here to show you how to do the fold over method. The fold over method is very important in preventing you from having to cut through your hair extensions, because if you cut through your hair extensions, you can cause your extensions to shed. So at that very first fold, make sure you're actually stitching down that top weft. You're not stitching down both wefts. You're only sewing the top weft, and you're going to continue doing that as you're continuing to sew in the opposite direction. The fold over method allows you to get multiple uses out of your extensions without having a bunch of tiny little pieces of weft, because those can be pretty difficult to stitch down. So that way when you're done and you're actually ready to take down your install, you have your bundles all intact. And this is how it looks so far when you incorporate the fold over method. Now, this is how the first bundle looks after it's all sewn down. The hair looks super vibrant and beautiful. It's been colored jet black, but the hair comes in a natural brown color. Now, I've sewn down most of the second bundle, but you want to stop right here to stitch down your lace closure. To begin preparing your lace closure, make sure you make very tiny cuts along the actual natural curvature of the hairline. This is important because it makes your lace closure look very natural. If you were to cut a very straight line, it won't flatter your hairline much. So follow the hairline of the lace for your most natural looking install. This is how the back looks, and this is how the front looks. Secure your knot a little bit of a distance away from the edge of the closure. The reason why is because we want to save that little flap of area for later. For now, as you stitch it down, go ahead and place it into position, extending the closure a little bit past your hairline. Now as you get it right into place, make sure to go through your braid and then go underneath the lace closure. Wrap the thread around the needle twice and then pull the needle, as this creates your very first knot. Now stitch in that same space again to secure that very first stitch down onto your lace closure, onto your braid pattern base. Now when you continue to make more stitches, go over literally about a couple of centimeters at a time. It is so important to make sure your knots are very close together so that this lace closure is so flat. After sewing up about 1/4 inch, this is how it should look And remember that tiny little piece in the front? We're gonna come to this a little bit later. Now on the other side, you're doing the same thing, making sure the closure is a little bit past your hairline. And as you can see where I'm pointing, that's where you want to create your first stitch. You don't want to actually stitch directly underneath where the closure has been placed. You want to stitch a little bit over of a distance, so that way you're creating a little bit extra tension so it lays down very flatly. So go ahead and secure the first knot onto your braid, and then what you want to do is go underneath the lace and pull through so you're actually coming out on top of the lace. Now once you pull it into position, you're going to hold it with one hand and go back in at the top of the lace, through the braid, and then through the opening of your thread to create your next knot. Now once you insert and wrap your needle around, hold your closure down to secure that knot. So now you're going to continue stitching the rest of the way. At times, you're going to be creating a knot while only going through your weaving net, and then at other times, you're going to be going through your braid. Make sure the knots on both sides of your closure are very close together. This is going to keep your closure extremely flat throughout your entire installation. Also, one thing that I want you to keep in mind is to always go back and forth on both sides of your closure. Sew up about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch on one side, and then go back on the other side, and then just keep doing this in an alternate fashion until you reach the back. The reason why is because it keeps the tension very even, and it ensures you that your closure is sewn directly in the middle and it's not sewn in a shifted way. So this is how it should look so far, with that tiny bit of lace in the beginning not stitched down. After sewing around my entire closure, this is how it should look. Now it's time to sew down that very front edge of the closure. And we're going to start on this side first. Grab the edge and pull it very, very firmly and flatly, and then hold it down with one hand so that you can start stitching it. So as you can see, I'm pointing here because remember, when you're stitching down the closure as well as the front, you don't want to actually stitch it directly underneath the edge. You want to go a little bit of a distance to the side because this creates just a little bit more tension so that it's flat. Put the needle through the top of the edge of the lace. Go underneath your braid and go back out through the back of the braid. And then you're going to wrap the thread around the needle twice, or wrap it around your finger twice. And then when you pull the needle through, make sure you're holding the very front of it very flatly against your head so that the knot allows it to be very secure and as flat as possible. Create your second knot in that very same position to secure the beginning of the lace. Now personally, I like to secure the very beginning of my closures with 3 knots. You can do 2, which is just fine, but for me, I feel like it makes a little bit of a difference, so I do it that way. So now as you can see, this is how flat one side looks, and now it's time to do the other side. Grab the edge of it and always pull it very firmly, making sure that there is no lift at all, because how firmly you pull it will determine how well it stays. So as you can see, go over a little bit of space because you never want to sew directly underneath the edge. And then you're going to secure your needle and thread in place with 1 knot. Now go underneath your braid and then go underneath the edge of your lace. Wrap the thread around the needle twice and pull through to create that first knot. And remember, we're doing the exact same thing on this side as we did on the previous side. And you can always secure with about 2 to 3 knots so that way the very front of your lace closure does not unravel. Now that we're done, check this out. I'm pulling on the hairs just a little bit to show you how flat this is. This closure will stay flat throughout your entire installation until your hairs start to grow out. Now it's time to mold our lace closure, and the best time to do this is when it's already been sewn down. What you see me doing right now is I'm parting very thin sections, and I'm making sure to wet both sides of the section. The reason why is because you want it a little bit damp because it helps to mold the hairs very perfectly against the shape of your head. So continue working your way all the way across to the other side by spraying very lightly a small amount of water on both sides of the part. So next it's time to begin spraying some heat protectant. The type of heat protectant I'm using is a liquid-based heat protectant, and the reason why I'm using this product is because I will be using direct heat on the hair extensions. And you always want to use a heat protectant to preserve the natural wave pattern of the hair. Now take the thinnest amount of hair that you need to cover your weft and comb it over the back part of your head, and then use a duck bill clip to hold that hair in place. Now taking your rat tail comb, you're going to part directly in the center of your head, so that way your lace closure looks very natural. Now begin combing down one side of your hair and do the same to the other side, and then go back in a little bit more at the very beginning of the lace, so that way your part looks super natural. Now we're going to begin blow drying our hair to conform exactly to the shape of our head. You're going to need a boy bristle brush and your favorite hair dryer. Make sure the hair dryer is set on medium heat so that way it can dry very effectively, because if the heat's on low, it takes too long. And if the heat's on high, you can actually cause your hair to be very dried out. So put it on medium heat and brush it to create an effect with your hair. Now that one side is done, this is how it should look. Now to do the left side, you can still use your brush as well, but if it makes it easy for you, use your comb to comb through your section to smooth it down, and then hold the hair very firmly as you blow dry the roots. I like to alternate back and forth between the two because if I'm not getting the roots dry enough, I like to go in with my comb instead of using my brush. Now it's time to mold the back, and remember we parted such a thin section of hair that you don't really need to use any tools besides your hands and your blow dryer to help further dry that section. And this is how gorgeous it looks after we molded down our hair. We didn't have to use any mousse. The only thing we used was heat protectant to protect the wave pattern of the hair. Now it's time to straighten out our hair extensions, and I already did one side and I have a small section left. Make sure that you've applied heat protectant down the length of your hair as well to protect the integrity of the curl pattern. Now using your comb, you smooth out your hair and then you glide the flat irons very slowly down your section to achieve a bone straight look. Now that we're straightening the last section, what I want you to do is to make sure you're slightly rounding the top so that it contours very beautifully against the shape of your head. Now it's time to further detail our lace, and I love to use pressed powder to do this. I highly suggest that you use a powder when you want the appearance of your lace to be a little bit lighter or a little bit darker depending on your skin tone. This lace closure matches almost every skin tone, but if you want just that little bit touch to it, then just use a little bit of makeup powder. And you're only going to dab a little bit at a time because you truly don't need to use much. I highly recommend that you always use a powder and never liquid makeup because it can actually stain the lace, and you may not want to actually stain it, so use powder instead. With just a little bit of powder, look at how effortlessly this lace closure installation looks. It is so beautiful and natural looking. Now at this point, I'm putting a little bit of edge control on the edges of my hairline. Technically, I don't have leave out, but this also helps your installation to look extremely natural because the very edges of my hairs are so short, it didn't actually stay inside of the braid. So no worries, just use a little bit of your favorite holding product to slick down the edges of your hairline. Now that I'm done, look at how gorgeous this installation looks, ladies. I am so in love with this lace closure because I've never worked with a closure that literally looked this good before. And this is how it looks now that we have our edge control slicked down on our edges and the hair all straightened out. And now I just want to show off how beautiful the installation is looking so far. And check this out, no lift at all where the closure is. And as you can see, I am so happy with how the hair looks, and I am so in love with jet black hair. It blends so graciously with so many different skin tones. Now I'm spinning around just to show you how the hair looks now that it's been straightened and the installation is complete. Now mind you, this hair comes in a very natural brown color, but I decided to color it jet black to achieve this look. And now it's time to throw some curls in this hair. I've already curled most of my hair, but I left 2 sections in the front to show you how to achieve this look. Now starting on the right side, you're going to remove your clip and you're going to divide your section in half. Now comb through your section of hair and clip the other hair out of the way so we're focusing on this section here. Now when you're curling your hair, make sure you're going away from your face. So the curl is in a sense kind of flowing in a backward direction. One thing that I always like to do is start the curlers at the very top of my roots so that it's a consistent curl from the roots all the way down to the ends. After holding for a couple of seconds, you are going to gently unravel your hair from the curlers, and then you're going to roll that curl up and use a duck bill clip to hold in place. This is so that way the hair cools and you achieve very beautiful curls. Now on the left side, we're doing the same exact thing, ladies. The one thing I really love about this hair is that I have to use minimal to no product to actually achieve a very curly look with this hair. This hair holds a curl for so long that you literally have to either wash your hair or you have to spray it with water to kind of get rid of the hold of the curl, because it holds a curl extremely easy. After holding for a couple of seconds, you just release it into your hand as usual and use a pin to hold in place. Now I just want to show you on this section here that you want to make sure that you're taking your time and you're very careful so that way you don't touch the curlers against your skin. Always hold it out at an angle so you can see exactly what you're doing. Now check this out, isn't this style beautiful? It's super gorgeous, but not when you step outside, of course. You wanna go ahead and make sure that you remove your pins now that we're all done so that we can further style this look. Now starting at the back, this is where I want to begin releasing my curls, and it makes the whole process so easy because it's easy to see exactly where you left off instead of starting at the top. As I'm releasing it, you can see that them curls are popping, ladies. This hair holds a curl so well that I just usually prefer to leave it like this, but of course I'm gonna add a little bit more of a styling product so that we can achieve a certain look with our curls. Now that one side is done, we're going to start working on the next side. Now that all the curls have been taken down, this is how gorgeous the style looks, and you can wear this as is, but we're not done just yet. Now, in order to create this look with our hair, what I'm going to do is save a few curls at the very back, about 1 to 2 curls. So now I'm gonna grab the rest of the curls and I'm gonna use a duckbill clip to keep it separate. Now what I'm going to do is actually brush through my curl with a wig brush. Now after smoothing it out, you want to go ahead and position the curl exactly how you want it to be before you begin spraying hairspray on it. Now I'm going to take another section to show you exactly how I did it. So as you can see, it's so easy styling this hair. I barely have to use much product to achieve such gorgeous looks. So now I'm combining a couple of more curls together and I'm positioning it exactly how I want, making sure it's very smooth before I begin spraying. Now I'm brushing my next section and I want you to keep in mind that if you have to brush through multiple times, don't worry about it. The curls are not going to drop. It's actually pretty hard getting the curls to drop out of the hair because it holds the curl so good. So now I'm just putting the finishing touches on these curls so that this look is complete, and I am absolutely happy with how beautiful it looks, how vibrant the color is, and how sexy this style looks now that I'm finished. And voila, ladies, as you can see, this look is so mesmerizing. If you want to achieve styles like this, be sure to purchase your hair from MissRutters.com.